Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Tanya Love Show, and I hope you're all having an amazing day today. Am and I were just talking about how nice the weather is where both of us live, and so we've had a lot of nature time. Hopefully, you guys have been able to get outside and enjoy nature as well. It's so good for you. Um, let's see. Last week we were kind of talking. We got into a deep discussion about entities and attachments, like lower vibrational energies and entities, ghosts, like what does all that mean, angels. And I felt like we just kind of continue we'll kind of touch base on that. But I recently went through some things where I had, oh, my dog's at my door scratching. No, baby. Where I had some energies that I had to deal with in my own sacred space. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind is if humans are going through things and they're in a very dark place and they are in depression, or they are, taking medications, or maybe they just suddenly stopped and there's like a shift in their brain activity, like imbalances in the brain, it can cause a lot of disruption in that human. And something that I have observed with people who really struggle with depression and like addictions and things like that from a healer's perspective is that we have to get to this place where we're willing to release who we're identifying ourselves as to become who we're ready to become, or who our higher self would like to become. And so a lot of the journey of that for a soul is going to be very disciplined and focused, and to have great courage to actually shed away what you're identifying with so that you can become what you're ready to become. And I say that because each of you in your own way are probably dealing with this. Either you're going through it yourself, or you have loved ones around you that have gone through this or are going through this. And, getting to the place where you can understand that self-love and self-protection are absolutely vital. That's a very important thing to pay attention to. I recently posted a thing on Facebook saying that we basically teach others how to treat us by what we tolerate, like the abuse we tolerate from them. And so a lot of times when I'm working with clients, the big part they have to see in their own movie, in their own life of empowerment, is how am I enabling this behavior? How am I participating in this experience? And it's not going to really give us much power to wonder what we can do to change that person. How can we make that person kind when they're not? How can we make this person generous and giving when they're just stingy and taking? How do we make this person have honor when they have no integrity? That's a waste of our time, because we're really not going to be able to make anybody else something out that they're not. But where we do have our power is where we can observe our movie and we can see what's coming into it. And sorry, I've got like a tickle in my throat. We can see where something's coming into our movie to test us or teach us in some way. And then what do we do with that? Where is the position where I have power in this situation? Am I enabling the situation? Am I contributing to it in some way? Or is there something that I can do to shift the situation? And so I feel that that's the most important thing for each of us to focus on in our life as we're evolving, is where do I hold power to shift? When you're dealing with energies from different people, like entities, attachments from, drug addictions, or alcohol abuse, or like I said, even depression, a soul that's choosing to be in a very heavy state vibrationally, this can be tricky stuff, because when that person is in your bubble, in your sacred space, their energy disruption could very much create a disruption in the frequencies of that environment. And if you're very, very strong and disciplined and you can just observe without absorbing, you can be okay with that if you enjoy that sort of thing. But if you're not, and a lot of humans are not very focused and disciplined in this way, typically someone's misaligned behavior and energy is going to trigger that within that person that's observing, and it's going to really start to cause havoc and create a disruption. And so it's really important that we pay attention to our own, sacred space, and keep ourselves safe. I got to drink some water because there's feels like I swallowed something like stuck in my throat. So anyway, that's kind of where I was going to start with the discussion is, going into the importance of paying attention to that energetically and making sure that we're not allowing these frequencies to disrupt our own sacred space. And like in my case, this past week, I had to make some important decisions in my own movie and shake some things out of my movie, out of my environment that I was not willing to tolerate or to have in my sacred space anymore. And, there's consequences to this. There can be disruption where people lash out. They don't love you. They don't show you honor or respect. But I encourage you, as scary as that darkness can seem when it's coming at you, and in your heart you've shown nothing but honor and you've helped people and you've shown love, you've been there for them, you've gave to them, but they just take advantage. It's important that we stay in our power and that we clear that from our sacred space. And then that you can see that that soul needs to learn in some way, but they don't necessarily need to be in your sacred space to learn. And that takes a lot of power. And so one of the things I was going to read to you is I just wrote a blog maybe 2 days ago talking about releasing judgment. And I wanted to share this with you, and then we'll kind of tap into this throughout the discussion. For any of you tuning in live today that want to call in, it's 919-518-9773. Or you can call Computers 2K Voice if you'd like to call in, and I can do a reading for you. And you can also share your insights on this discussion. So I'm just going to read this to you really quick because it's all written really well, and then we can go into it. I put the angels, and I invite you. Oh, actually, I don't need to read that part. Sorry, that's about to show. Have you observed how, as humans, we are conditioned and taught to judge? We are taught to judge ourselves as well as to judge others. We are raised from birth to do this, and it's socially not only acceptable but encouraged. Many religions actually teach that it is beneficial to judge ourselves. So, for example, if you're born a Christian, you're taught that you were born a sinner, and like from birth, you're pretty much judged, and there's, something off about you, and you need to heal that. A lot of religions have a belief that we are in judgment, and that if we don't do good things and good deeds, and we don't, act a certain way, that we will be judged. What I truly feel in my own awareness of this is that we are our own greatest judge. And like, for example, if we know that we're taking advantage of someone, if we know we're overtaking and we're not giving enough, we know it. Our awareness is there. Now, if a soul honors that awareness and starts to become more giving and more generous and appreciative, having gratitude and being helpful, that will shift that person's experience, and that soul will start to enjoy their life more. One thing I was talking to a client today, one thing I've observed with humans that are happy compared to humans that are miserable and depressed and suffer with depression, and this is my observation, is not me judging humans. I see and I observe and I learn. You teach me by what you do. And when I see humans that are suffering and struggling with depression, typically what I observe is that they have a tendency to be overtaking. They don't really show gratitude very often. They take. Everything's about me, me, me. They're worried. They're chronically worrying about what other people think of them. What do they look like? And they're often in a very needy position where they need attention. They need help. They need time and energy and money and food. And they just need. And they suffer because they don't balance that with how can I give? How can I serve? How can I assist? Where can I show gratitude and honor? And then I've observed that the humans I watch that seem to be typically pretty happy and content in their lives, they often are more in balance with this, where they are in a state of gratitude. They show appreciation. They help others. They give. They're coming from a place of how may I serve? How may I assist? Instead of what's in it for me. And so that shift is something to observe in ourselves, to see, like, if I'm struggling and I'm feeling depressed and I don't feel that I'm getting enough in my life, that could be a deeper wound that I need to heal that no one can fill, and no amount of food or no amount of fame or no amount of attention, no amount of money, social status, none of that is really going to fill that void. The only thing that will fill that is you healing the deeper aspects of I'm not good enough, which is that core issue. And then the humans that tend to be happier and more, peaceful and high vibrational beings, they are often giving, and that's in balance. That doesn't mean, because I see people who give too much. I observe that as well, where humans that are always doing for others and giving, but at the cost of themselves. And these are very frustrated humans. They show me how frustrated they are. They show me how much irritation they have. They often will be very passive aggressive in their energy because they're not really expressing how they feel about stuff. They're not really standing in their power. So they kind of get taken advantage of a lot. They're a doormat for people. A lot of people walk all over them, take from them. So also not happy if you're overgiving and not balancing receptivity. If you're overgiving from a place of obligation and not giving from love, like genuine heartfelt desire to give, is the highest vibrational space that we should be giving from. And if we're not in that alignment, then it feels like we're getting taken advantage of. And so we have to be in that space where we're very balanced with all that. Um, so I'll pause for a sec. Any questions or anything coming in or comments, Amnon?
Not yet.
Okay. So back to what the judgment part. Um, we are taught that there is a right way and a wrong way for everything. Think about it. If I spell a word on this post incorrectly and don't use proper pronunciation, oh no, judgment time. And I say that as a joke because so many times when I've written posts or like blogs, they're like beautifully written, like from the heart. And it's not about perfectionism as far as grammar and all that. And I do my best to make sure I'm spell checking and all that. But what's funny to me is there are times that I have had this beautiful epiphany, from spirit that I go to share with the world. And not this doesn't happen all the time, but occasionally someone will comment and all they have to say is, Tanya, you spelt that wrong, or you didn't use the right pronunciation or punctuation or whatever. And I'm just like, really? Like, that's all you have to say? Like, that whole thing that you just read, all you could capture was what's wrong. And I say this playfully, but also powerfully, because a lot of us, if we're miserable, it's because we're looking out of eyes of what's wrong. If we're always looking at people and situations of what's wrong, what's going to go wrong, where's their mistake? Oh, she made a mistake. Oh, look, she spelled that wrong. Oh, he's going to screw up. I just know it. This also creates suffering because we're walking around in a perspective of the world's messed up and we're looking for what's wrong. It's good to see what's really in front of us and to observe that, but to come from a focal point where we are open to love and we're open to goodness and miracles, that's also beautiful. And if we really can tune in and listen deeply from a place of love, from our higher heart, from a place of compassion, we will have deeper interactions with each other than if we're just listening from a shallow place of judgment and I need to make sure they know they did that wrong. And so just something to think about and look at in yourself. Like, are you a type of person that tends to want to point out when someone's always making a mistake? Or do you do that to yourself? And is that really helping you? Or is it better if you're gentle with yourself and you can have awareness and see that there's something definitely that could be improved here? The thing I observed, like with the situation I went through this past week, the human I interacted with had so much self-judgment, so much hatred of self, that it wasn't long before that shot out and spilled over into my environment and at me directly. The wisdom in me knew, don't take this personally. This has nothing to do with you. This is a human that's hurting and lashing out and pissed and doesn't like herself, doesn't like her own life. So don't take this personally. But at the same time, do I feel that I need to like tolerate that? Do I deserve that to be in my sacred space? Hell no. So out of here and send you love as you heal. The judgment part, it doesn't mean we don't observe and have awareness, because I feel like when I teach the empowering the empath trainings, a lot of the men and women that I connect with, they're very loving, compassionate beings. And the issue with that is when we're so compassionate to the point where we tolerate abuse because we feel like that's being a good, compassionate Christian or a good, compassionate spiritual person or a good, compassionate Buddhist, whatever it is. The Dalai Lama summed it up so well at one of his peace rallies where he said, that is called idiot compassion. And idiot compassion is where I have compassion towards another at the cost of myself, meaning that my compassion of tolerating your abuse is me thinking that's being loving, but what it really is I am now enabling you and I am actually assisting you to continue with that. And I'm teaching you what I'm going to tolerate of abuse from you. And I feel like that's not compassion at all. That's not compassion for ourselves. It's not self-love. And the biggest thing that I observe with my clients that, where the struggle comes is they know if something's off and they know if they need to speak their truth on something. And they know if they've been either overstepping that and taking too much from others, and they know if they have been in a space where they've been tolerating and silencing themselves and not speaking their truth. And either one of those, without awareness, will create destruction, big picture. And so it's important that we start to speak our truth and not have fear. And part of the fear is, like let's say I have my husband, and so I'm afraid to speak truth to husband. Now that he's husband, I can't speak truth because what if he leaves me? That's really a mistake, because now if I can't speak truth to this person that I've committed my life to, who's my best friend, I'm in trouble, and we're going to start to deteriorate. Our relationship will deteriorate because we're not really showing up with honor. We're not being truthful. The same thing when we have a title and attachment to like best friends or, family members. Like it's my cousin, so I can't speak truth to her. So I'm just going to hold in all my feelings, and I just totally don't agree with how she's treating me or others. But I'm not going to say anything because I'm a good cousin, and, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want them not to talk to me again. And I will tell you from experience that there's been people in my life that I have lost from speaking truth. But I will say that it was absolutely worth speaking that truth, because when you do, you make it their problem. When you speak truth, you put that energy on them to choose what they're going to do with it. If they want to choose to continue to disrespect you after you've expressed that you don't really enjoy that, then they're showing you who they are. And this is where we either have attachment or where we release with love. And real, absolute, true love and self love is when we are not afraid of a change, of a shift. So if I'm too afraid to speak truth to a friend because I don't know if friend will now not like me, or if I have a client and I'm afraid to speak messages to them that their angels are saying this is what they need to hear, do you see how I will actually disrupt the flow? And they need that truth. Now, what they do with that truth is up to them. If that client then turns on me and is angry at me for the truth and the message is coming through because they don't want to do their work, that's about them, not about me. If you have, like, you're talking to your family member, you're telling your sister how you feel about stuff, you want to help her out, and she rejects that and rejects that, not about you. That's about her. Sometimes humans do not want the light. They do not want the light. They don't want awareness because there's some part of them that's getting something from their behavior. So someone who's very, let's say, overtakes, like takes too much, they don't really want the awareness, even if someone brings it to them, because in a sense, they're getting something from it. If they have a lot of a need for a lot of attention and approval, and they're just an ego and they're always needy for everybody's energy, they aren't going to want to hear the fact that you don't really enjoy that because they're getting something from it. And it's kind of like an addict that needs their fix. They need their hit, whether it's caffeine or heroin or sex or whatever the addiction is. Cupcakes, it could be approval. I need a lot of approval. I have an addiction for people to love me and approve of me. That's a big one that we don't even talk about. But think of how much of our society operates under that one in general. Like the fear of speaking what you really have to say. And in my experience, I feel that as a pioneer of this shift, I'm here to teach this through example. And there's so many humans that are not at all ready for that, or they're not at all wanting to actually live in that kind of alignment. So there has been consequences. There has been jobs I've walked from, relationships I have walked from, humans that I have not connected with again. And I can still love them, but I don't need to have them in my sacred space in a way that's abusive or disrespectful. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things that I love to inspire others with as far as living as an empowered empath, is that we take back our power and we look out of the eyes of what do I feel about this energy? And if it doesn't feel good, why do we tolerate it? Why do we keep just enabling it? And that's something societal level that we have to be willing to wake up to if we ever truly desire a bigger change in our so-called reality. And so for you, all of you out there listening, that you feel like you are in a place where you are doing the work and you are in a place where you want to be this global shift leader, you want to lead by example, and you feel that it's worth it to do that work and to show up and to speak truth. Even there's going to be days where it doesn't feel comfortable. There's going to be days, like there are days where the reason I'm so big on meditation is because there are days where I absolutely have to pull away from this world. This insane world can get pretty intense. And there are times when I have to just retreat, go in deep stillness, deep listening, angels, give me guidance, help me understand this. Like, man, they're really lashing out. And that is when we can get that deeper truth and wisdom so that we can come back and speak and connect with each other. And so those of you that are on the path to becoming aligned leaders, one thing you have to realize is you didn't sign up for an easy job. Um, in essence, we're coming into a consciousness that is very disruptive and very broken and very sick. And so, to bring a higher consciousness, we cannot worry about fitting in. We cannot worry about if people don't like us for speaking truth. If we're worrying about being accepted, belonging, having people approve of us all the time, it's going to really feel heavy to us to actually fulfill our soul mission, because a lot of fulfilling an authentic soul mission is not being so attached to what everyone thinks about you. It's about delivering truth and being a messenger of that truth. And that is what makes us happy. For me, personally, that's what brings me joy and happiness, is when I know I am in my alignment and my power and I can speak my truth. The times I've suffered the most has been when I feel like someone scared me into submission and made me feel as if I could not speak, I could not have a voice to something that was happening to me. And maybe a human's treating me so terribly and they think that's totally fine, but I don't necessarily agree with that. And so this is where it started to wake me up in my journey as a empathic being that was really being hit energetically by people. I had to move through that initiation and that test. I had to pass that. And so any of you that are struggling in any way, I encourage you to stay focused and stay disciplined with your meditation and your nature time, and pull away from the crazy world. Like, don't be so caught up in the world. Don't be so caught up in getting that non-believer to believe in angels. Like, if someone's ragging on you and they're insulting you because they're scientific and they're just like, I don't believe in that crap, can you give me proof? Don't even waste your energy trying to change that person's viewpoint. Let them believe that way. Let them go on in that direction. But if they're degrading you and energetically it's causing a disruption in your own faith and your own connection, move away from them. Have the wisdom to move away from them energetically so that you no longer tolerate that in your sacred space. And I promise you, you're going to feel better. You can't make other people change. If that was the case, I would have waved my wand a long time ago and had everybody be happy and loving and harmonious. But what we're here to do as global leaders is we're here to show that through example. If someone's hating me and spitting on me and lashing out and hateful and vengeful, and I can say, I forgive you and I send you love and light on your path as you learn how to heal this, and I don't take it personally, that is the best way I could teach self-love, teach alignment, and teach what love really is, by standing in that power and by showing that through my own example. If I get angry and lash out back and say hateful things and I just get into a big old venomous war, that isn't going to help anything. And so a lot of us have to really be disciplined in our meditation time so that we can feel centered and able to move on this planet in our power. So I'm going to pause. Any questions, comments?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So back to what I was reading. I put, from my observation as a soul having a human experience, I see that depending on where you're born and raised, that you will be trained and conditioned to obey a certain set of rules, laws, and judgments. Many born in one country will be taught to hate and judge and distrust others born in a different country with different skin, different religious clubs or cultures. Some teach that being wealthy makes you acceptable or worthy, while others teach that being poor is the way, so to give it all away. Others teach that one gender is superior to another, and the list goes on and on. My point with this expression is to nudge anyone who may be tuning in and interested to open your eyes, not just your physical eyes, but to open your spiritual eyes to truly see with clarity and understanding. As we align with the infinite eternal light beings and souls that we are, we have the opportunity to see in a much clearer way where judgments aren't necessary. Our families, our society, our churches, our clubs, our moms' clubs, men's groups, the media, our friendships, all the peer groups constantly conditioning us to judge ourselves and then to judge one another. And think about that for a second. If you really are honest with yourself, you have been taught this from birth. Constantly taught judgments, rule systems, belief systems. This is right, that is wrong. And the first step, I feel, for us to actually shift in consciousness which will affect the entire planet in a beautiful way, is to realize this. The first step to any change is to have awareness. Awareness that we're alcoholic, we can't really heal ourselves because we're in denial that we have a drinking problem. But the moment I realize, wow, I feel like crying right now because I can't have that vodka, that's a sign. Like that's a very important moment for a drinker to realize this alcohol is affecting me and I feel powerless to it. That's a moment of opportunity and an opportunity to shift and heal in a new direction if that soul is ready to see. Not, then they're going to stay stuck. And the collective consciousness, what I'm feeling is big and important for us, is that we have to release this conditioning of judgment. The deepest wounds start with our own inner self judgment. I recently was watching a movie with my beloved. We went and saw The American Sniper, based on a true story about this guy who was in the Iraq War. That was a sniper. And what was interesting is the things he had to make choices of with that job and that obedience to his country. And then at the same time, when I observed he's doing his mission because his country has trained him that this is the bad guys and he's the good guys. And then as he's making these choices, and there's another sniper in Iraq who is also trained, highly trained to take out the American soldiers. And from my perspective of observing it, it is just complete insanity. But what's interesting is when these characters were so in the movie of their drama, of what they're supposed to be and the judgments they've been taught, they judge themselves so deeply to the point where in Iraq, they're training these young children and women to go out there and sacrifice their own lives to carry a rocket launcher towards humans they don't even know that are actually there trying to protect them and help them. And they're, this insanity because of the belief system they've been taught to these. Same time, the Americans, some of them maybe hated the people in Iraq and don't trust them because they've been taught this. And so what happens is when these small subtle things start happening from birth, it starts to create a lot of darkness. And the next thing you know, you got people flying their airplanes into a building. You got people doing crazy shit, like going into a vehicle and blowing themselves up. Just crazy things that are insane. And the only way we're going to change this is if we all wake up to the fact that we're taught this and we are conditioned to be judgmental. And if we can shift that, if we can start to love ourselves, and maybe today there's 20 of us on the planet that really love ourselves, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing because that is what the world needs. It needs more humans that really understand self-love, that align with what's I'm trying to say, that live in alignment with their healthy boundaries and they show that through aligned example. The world needs this because we need to show others a new way. And what's important to see though, before that shift can happen, we have to access what's going on in the consciousness now. So if we see the issue, we can look at it and then we start to focus on the new way. We start to focus on the new alignment that we're here to bring in. If we go fight the old way, it's just like the two snipers trying to kill each other. It's insanity and it's so destructive. So each of you listening, if you have enough consciousness to really hear what I'm saying and understand it, you each have the power to shift this in an amazing way in your lives. And every human you interact with will be affected by that choice to come into alignment or the choice to not be. So the person that refuses to do their healing, refuses and legitimization will lash out and drain and the resources and the humans around them, maybe for lifetimes. And that may be the way they need to learn. But if we could be open to actually seeing that behavior and we could shift it without our egos taking ourselves on a damn ride and realize I need to take power back, I need to love myself, and I need to show honor to myself, then it's pretty easy for me to show honor to others. So a human that's been taken advantage of too many times and they overgive to make themselves look good, like I want to be a good person, so I'm going to go help. Think of like your typical martyr energy. If I'm a good deed doer, then people will like me and then I'll be accepted by society. So they give, 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 give. And then they're exhausted. And so passive aggressively, they show kindness by being passive and not saying how they really feel. And then they aggressively attack. And it's insanity. And the only way we're going to change that is if we actually start to look at our own work that needs to be done. Stop pointing the finger at others. Look at your own work because that is where we're going to make the greatest shifts. I can't change anybody. Like I was talking to one of my clients today, and I love my clients. I care about them deeply, whether they understand it as deeply as I do or not. That is not my concern. I know my soul absolutely cares about all life. Now, what I learned is that not necessarily does all life absolutely care about me. That is a fact. So part of being an empowered empath is we have to be very discerning of energy, show love and honor, speak truth, help where we can. When a soul shows you they are absolutely aligning with the darkness and they show you no respect and they're dangerous, you get yourself away from them, period. If it's your brother and he's a heroin addict and you just feel like, oh, I got to be a good sister, I don't want to let my brother down, but he's draining your resources, draining your life force, just being in your home. He's exhausting everyone around him. He's overtaking. This is a human that needs some harsh lessons, maybe. And he's not going to get his lessons if everyone's babying him and taking the blame and, like, basically being responsible for everything he's not doing. And that's an example of how, as humans, we need to wake up and see, is my choice coming from love or is my choice right now coming from fear? So, someone with an addict in their family a lot of times may tolerate their behavior not because they love them, but because they're terrified of them. They're terrified of what they may do, how they may react, and maybe they won't love me or talk to me ever again. And we got to stop that because we're not going to really be able to love each other until we stop with the fear. We have to clear the fear. Simple as that. Okay, I'll pause again. Anything?
Not yet, but I need to take you on a different path for a second.
Okay.
Is anybody else in the house using the internet?
Oh, you know what? I totally forgot to plug in my Ethernet cable today.
Okay, well,
So
too late to do it now. Do you have anything running on your computer, like email or anything like that?
hold on, just a second.
Then shut it down. Whatever is there, that just leave Skype up.
Yep, shutting it down.
Okay, because it's your video started to mess up a little bit in the last 10 minutes.
Okay. How's that? Is it any better?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, it's like it does it
It
for a
just kind
couple
of,
of seconds, and then it's okay, and then it does it. So
okay.
as long as what was open.
It had just like my blog was open and Facebook was open behind my screen, so I shut that down.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Sorry
We'll
about
see.
that. I actually totally didn't even think about that. I usually plug in the Ethernet cable and I forgot to today. So
That's okay. It's so far okay. Let
oh,
keep going.
okay. All right. All right. So anyway, back to where I left off in the reading. I put the very essence of this conditioning is destructive and creates great suffering. And if you don't believe me, definitely don't take my word on anything I say on the show. Go out there and observe for yourself. I'm just a messenger and I'm just a really good listener, observing every day. But if you don't believe me, definitely don't take my word for it. Go out there and test this. Ask the universe to bring you understanding. Ask the universe to show you truth and to bring you greater clarity and understanding. And I promise it will. So go test that. But basically, it creates a lot of suffering. And the beauty is that it's all completely unnecessary. Totally true. It's as if many humans truly believe that judgment is necessary to being a human. I feel it's the opposite. It is absolutely a prison to our souls to live in such harsh judgment. As spirit, we are here to learn from our physical experience, to overcome the strategic conditioning of limitations and judgment. We are not our body, we are not our minds, or our race, we are not our religion, nor are we our belief systems, clubs, or our job title. We are not our possessions. We are, in essence, spirit, light, consciousness, however you'd like to express it. All of the above are aspects of our survival, yet they are not who we are, nor should they define us or create a sense of separate or start to create a sense of separateness. So if I start to think I am my possessions, pretty quickly I'm going to think I'm way better than that person. Like, huh, look at her shoes. And what's sad is this is the energy that starts to create a separation between human beings that, if you're in the forest, animals are just hanging out with each other. And at least from my observation, I don't see like the crane look over at the turtle and go, huh, look at that shell. That's terrible. Like I never observe animals behave this way. Yet I see humans behave this way all the time. And if we're, really poor, it could be the same judgment is passed where the poor person that's homeless is looking at the person in the Lexus like, what an asshole, you didn't give me any money. The same thing. Like, why do you think that person has to give you money? There is no reason that person is actually obligated to give you anything just because you're holding a sign saying, give me money. And the same with if we're looking at people and comparing to, maybe our abilities. I've had people do that with me so many times where I know it's not about me, but humans will look at like what my abilities are and start to compete or compare, and that's about them. And it's ridiculous because in essence, if we're near someone that's gifted in something and we listen to them and we tune in and ask them questions, we have an amazing opportunity to learn. But if we go near someone who's gifted and we compete and compare with them and start to create disruption and separateness, we actually shoot ourselves in the foot and we learn nothing because we couldn't handle being in the realm of someone that was aligned or someone that had understanding and mastery. That's really going to slow your own evolution down. So, a lot of this, if we can clear our ego, we're going to learn and grow so fast as a planet of humans that are all needing to wake up to see with love that each of our lives are mattering. Each of our lives matter. Each of our lives are significant. And as we do this with ourselves, we can start to see it with others, and then we care for others. We can truly start to love people for the first time. And we can start to care about nature. We give reverence to the trees and the flowers and to the animals because for the first time we realize it's a blessing, it's a gift. It's not something that's ours to just take from, it's a gift. And so this awareness of releasing judgment, it's huge. Like it came to me from spirit, this whole writing of how important this is and how much this very issue is what's causing so much suffering in the mind of one human that's in depression that just judges the hell out of themselves. There's so much hatred going on in there. They just spew darkness and toxins wherever they go towards others because how can they not? All that energy that they're holding inside of hatred, it's got to go somewhere. And eventually it's going to shoot out at the next person. And it's not always someone who necessarily deserves that. It just may often be a kind person that's there caring or helping. Think of like, the old geezerly grandpa that's pissed off and he's just like, having a bad day and he doesn't really like his life. He feels like it's mounting to nothing and he's angry. And then his grandchild comes over to help and he's always pissed off and saying negative things to that grandchild. That's an example of how there could be such an opportunity of love and honor for this human that's coming to help you, but instead you're just angry and lashing out, and it really starts to disrupt the vibrational alignment that could be there. And this creates great suffering that's not needed. Um, let's see. Where did I leave off at? Each one of us will draw forth unique experiences for our own soul growth and expansion. What one soul needs may not be what another soul needs to learn, grow, and understand. Yet we will all experience in a way that we need for our growth. So if we can understand that if this mother is about to make a choice to abort her child, that is her fucking choice. I'm sorry, I gotta say that. That is nobody else's choice to judge and to make for her. And she's gonna have to move through that experience in that her wants to learn something. If somebody chooses to be gay and they want to get married and there's two gay men, that's their choice of going through that journey and loving another man or loving another woman. It is not our choice to make. If you don't like gay people, then don't hang out with them. If you don't like, hunters that go hunt, don't hang out with them. There's things that I don't necessarily agree with on this planet, and I don't need to judge people. I just also don't need to go participate in it. If somebody doesn't really love and they don't know angels are real, okay, then don't hang out with people who love angels. If you really love, Baptist and you like going to that church and you like to go and sing in choir, then do it. But don't judge other people because they don't go to your church. It's just simple honoring of each other's path because every single soul, if we don't look at ourselves just as the spacesuit package we're in, every single one of us as a soul has a soul mission. We have soul contracts and agreements, things that we are here in human form because we want to experience things. So a mother that loses her child very young, she's got her own soul contract with that experience of loss that I can't take from her, nor should I. If there's someone that they're going to go down and they're going to OD as a rock star and they're going to just do drugs and just destroy their lives, I can't stop that, nor should I. I can, if they come and ask my opinion as a healer, could I help them? Absolutely. I will help them to see with greater clarity of their life and to help them to see from a perspective of self-love so that they can heal and be more empowered. But if a soul refuses that light, I don't need to go chase them with it. I don't need to chase and shine the flashlight of awareness on souls that don't want it. But if they come into my movie, if they're in my sacred space and they want to push darkness into my sacred space, you better fucking believe that light's going to be shining. So the point I'm making is that all of us have a purpose and a journey that we're on, and us judging each other is not helping. And us hurting each other because we're not like each other is not helping. We need to honor each other. Like one of the things I wrote in here, let me kind of skip along. It was connected with my healing gifts. I wrote, intuitive hear, feel, and connect with angels, auras, spirits of loved ones who have left their physical bodies. Yet not everyone is experienced this, I've learned. So for me, for a long time in my life, I thought this is just how people are. Like, this is what we do. When I started to talk about it, I started to learn very quickly, no, that's not what we do, Tanya. And so what I was taught young is like, I'm a weirdo. You better keep that shit quiet. It's weird. It makes me uncomfortable. That's evil. It's from the devil. That's not true. Just because I have a gift and it's something that I have a sensitive gift and awareness of does not mean that there's something wrong with me. Nor does it mean, which is the opposite of this, that I experience sometimes in the circles that I've had. I sense sometimes women competing with me, like they think, you know, why don't I have that figured out? Why does Tanya have that figured out? And I suck and I'm over here struggling. So they start to project this on me as if that's my responsibility, that they are not there yet. And what I see is that I'm there offering these gatherings to help them get there, like to help them understand that shift in awareness that's needed to align and to embody that experience and that being that they desire to be. So the point with that is if we're judging each other, like you're a weirdo because I go to church and you're talking to angels, that shit's weird. So I'm going to start talking trash about you. I'm going to insult you. I'm going to make people afraid of you. It's so destructive. And then especially what gets me is when they cast that little sticker of Christianity on there, like I'm a good Christian, but this is what I do. You know what Christ was talking about, and the deepest parts of what I love about the Christ consciousness was non-judgment. It was not about hating your neighbors. It was about loving your neighbor, no matter what. He who is without sin cast the first stone. It's all metaphors of alignment. And if somebody's living a way in their life that you don't like, then don't have them in your space. But don't judge them and cast stones at them, energetic stones or physical stones, because they're not doing what you think they should be doing. That is creating suffering for you and them. That's my big point with this. Let me see, where did I leave off? So, okay, back to me being a healer. I have learned that not everyone experiences this. I am not crazy or weird because I am experiencing this. And you are not crazy, weird, better, or worse than me if you are not experiencing this. We're just experiencing what we all chose to come here and experience. Do you get my point? We are all here, curious and gifted with our own unique treasures. We all have magic to share and to be honored. When we release judgments and when we release judgments, we can fully access and enjoy these gifts and even help guide others to greater understanding from our own unique experiences. No one is superior. No one is inferior. All are unique and special, and all are one in a shared vast consciousness. So think about that. If I'm taught in my country that America is awesome, we are the most awesome country and nation on the planet, we rule, then I'm going to start to believe in that consciousness and I will project that upon others that are not from America. If I believe my religion is superior, we're the chosen ones, all of us are going to heaven and the rest of them are going to hell. It's complete bullshit, because what you're doing is just buying into a belief system that is now causing your ego to believe it's on a pedestal and it's superior, and now others have to be below you. It's completely ridiculous and it's not helping anything. And I hope so deeply that this show that we're doing today reaches out far and vast on the planet, not to hurt anybody, but to absolutely shine light onto the ones that are living with such unconscious behavior, so that even if they hate me for saying it, Bring it on. I can handle you, not loving what I have to say. But I hope that it will drop some seeds and it will start to sprout seeds of love and sprout seeds of awareness so that we can stop this sick game because it is affecting the entire planet. It is a sickness that must be cured. And it's only way we're going to diffuse this is with our love, with our awareness. Let's see. The reason Spirit speaks these truths through me so often is because many of you are suffering. You are hurting and thrashing about in your own self-created as well as conditioned prisons. I am here dedicating my life as a humble and focused messenger. Why? Because I know in every fiber of my being that as each of you clear away and unlearn so much conditioning, so much judgment and hatred, so much negativity, that one day you will be free, feel free, and live with true freedom and liberation. And you will offer this gift to your brothers, your sisters, animals, and nature. Can you imagine such a world? A world where we don't have to hate anyone because they chose to be different or have a different life experience. Where we don't have to build ourselves up in order to put others down. We can all take a much needed, deserved, huge breath of relief and enjoy being us, whatever that may be showing up like in our now movie. For anyone, okay, so this is just where I say if anyone wants to work with me as a mentor. But basically, that was what I wanted to share. And it flowed so well in that writing. So I just thought I would read it and then we'd touch base on it. But I'm going to pause. Amnon, do you have any questions or is anybody writing in? And if you guys aren't, write in. Share your perspective. I would love to hear your point of view.
Well, first, Tara is saying, you go, girl.
Who's that?
Tara.
Tara, thank you, girl.
Tara.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And
so
then
anybody got comments?
Kathy's saying, and I think she missed the period or comma somewhere. It says, I was just having a conversation with my brother last weekend about him judging, not just him, but a lot of people that are Christians that judge. I don't know if she got cut in the middle or that was it.
So Kathy, if you're still there, clarify on that. So are you saying you basically had a discussion with a brother who's a Christian who was kind of maybe on his high horse talking about Christianity and looking down on others, and you were having a talk with him about that's not really in alignment? Is that what you're saying?
I'll go on a limb here and say that's exactly what she's talking about.
That's what I sense. You're like, I'm going to go out on a limb here. So how about you, Amnon? Do you have any personal experiences with that topic or things that you observe on the planet that you feel, that makes sense, or no, I disagree? Bring it on if you disagree.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about religion, and this is why that's why they say never discuss religion or politics.
Religion.
Yeah. But
yep. I'm like, bring it on. I'll talk about it.
Whenever that comes up, and I'm Jewish, a very small minority in a huge Baptist area, right?
Yeah.
But whenever somebody brings it up, it's never in a hateful way.
Good.
I've never seen any hateful, or they didn't show it anyway, and I didn't sense it. Yeah. But when people start telling me how it is the only way and all that, I remember what my father, may he rest in peace, like 30 some years ago when he was here, told one of those evangelists that was walking around the mall, or so they like to call themselves. He said, in order to be a good Christian, first you have to be a good Jew, because this is what Jesus was.
Indeed.
And the guy got up and left because there is no comeback. So I tell people that. But at the same time, I like to tell them that they have something that I believe that a person named Jesus existed.
Yes.
Because I've seen proof of where he was, and I mean stories that are in the New Testament. I mean, I lived for a while in the old city of Jerusalem and lived right on the Via Dolorosa. So there are a lot of things that you can go and see that really it existed.
Yes.
I don't know that
like
Moses existed. Land. I mean, Moses' existence is faith, period.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing really to prove it. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, he was on top of Mount Sinai, but on top of Mount Sinai today, there is a what do you call them? Where there are monks. What do you call the? It's not a
Um,
church where monks
like a
live.
monastery.
Monastery. So I mean, well, so what's the? I mean, so it's you can get into some conversation with people, and if they are open-minded, and maybe I was lucky in talking with open-minded people,
Yes. That
they
always
can
is a
understand
pleasure.
it. They can argue it in a way that we can both go back and forth, and we're both right. And
Hmm.
it's nice when you talk like this because I always learn something, and
Yes.
I'm hopefully they learn something too. But yeah, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people that will judge you and will try to make you feel like, oh, you know, you're worthless. Um, there is a comedian. I can't remember his name. He used to play Mr. Bean,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he had
I remember.
something about Welcome to Hell, and he's saying, okay, lawyers here, and this is here, and I can't remember what. Oh, and he says, and Christians, I hate to tell you, the Jews were right. You go over there, and I mean, it's all a comedy, So it
It's
was
a joke, but
funny.
it's
It's a
kind of
joke,
showing
yeah,
that
but
their
it's funny when,
prison is their judgment, right?
yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous because I've never heard a Jew saying this, talking that way. That oh, the Jews, are the only way, and blah blah blah. You don't have that, but you hear a lot of Christians
Hmm.
talk like
Well,
that.
and it's there. It's taught. It's like, that's where we have to get wise and realize because we kind of talked about this, I think last week or one of the current weeks where we were talking about that movie 42 and how the guy's got his son and they're at the baseball game and he yells "Go home, nigger,"
Yep.
and then the little
Yep.
kids like kind of like, "What do I do?" And suddenly he makes the choice, "Go home, nigger." He doesn't even know what he's saying.
Yep.
But that's how it starts. Like that subtle moment in a child's life with their dad they look up to, or with the mom they look up to, or the grandma or the aunt, like the misaligned adults are leading the children in that same direction. And so if we have like people growing up religious in any religion that
Right.
are teaching hatred of another race, they're out of alignment because if we look at the essence of what all of the religions have in common, if we really look at the essence of them, it's about love, it's about acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
it's about forgiveness, it's about unity consciousness and accepting each other. And so if you're a Christian that's hating everyone, you are out of alignment. I will challenge you because your essential nugget of wisdom of why you're in that religion, if you're following Christ, is to be a leader of light, to actually unify. And that means you look out of the eyes of the connection you share with other life. It's not a superiority thing. Christ was not a Christian. Christ was not on a pedestal telling everyone to worship him. He was saying, "These things I do, you will do greater."
Yep.
He was speaking truth. He was there to show that he knew and self realized that he was connected to the divine, to God. He called himself God's son. This
Right.
is like if I said, "Oh my God, I am God's daughter." The same thing. Like it's him realizing I am one with that light. Like I am so loved. He was waking up to that awareness through meditation and through prayer and through a lot of alone time, I'll remind you of. This is why I encourage so many humans to practice much meditation and quiet time because if you're out in that collective consciousness chatter noise chaos, it's really difficult to know self. So we have to be able to pull inward to be still and know that I am God. And that is anybody on the planet. It doesn't matter where you're born. If you can be still, you will remember that you are worthy and you're one with source. And think of the people, like when I see people in Iraq blowing themselves up, or in Africa, drugging children and getting them to go shoot up tribes. There is no self love there. There is
No.
no feeling of I am one with source. And if that shifted, they would behave very differently. But what's happening is complete survival from a fear based ego that says, someone's going to take what's mine. I have to fight to keep my share. That's ego. And ego
Mhm.
will always want to fight to get its share. It will always want to create separation. It will want to make someone better and others worse. The ego is very seductive and tricky, and we have to pay attention to that, and that we've been taught to be seduced by it from birth. We have all been conditioned to believe in these things. So, like Amnon's saying, if you get in a debate with someone and you can be open to hearing and open to looking deeper into yourself, you can become more aligned. You can
Mhm.
become more enlightened, more aware. And that's what the relationships are all about. We bring in a human so we can relate to them. And in relationship, we learn and know ourselves. And so without a relationship, we're like castaway, with him out on the island all by himself. And he was going kind of mad because he had nothing to relate to. And so we need relationship. It helps us to learn and to grow. But if we take that opportunity of relationship and we lash out at the other because it's not catering to our misalignment, we are losing the game. We're totally being seduced by the ego, and we're creating a lot of destruction in that choice. Period.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay,
All
I was
right.
going to read a card. Did you have another comment?
No, no, that was it. Go on.
Okay. Well, great awareness, Amnon. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you didn't get a bunch of people that were negative to you because that isn't very fun. But it is cool, like you said, when we're getting someone who's having a debate with us and they kind of cause us to go deeper into understanding and we can help them. That's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Okay, so the card I drew for today is the Orchid Priestess of Destiny. Let's see, where is my thing? Right there. And what it says is the orchid priestess of your highest spiritual destiny calls to you now, beloved. So this is me speaking this message to all of you watching. You are the beloved, okay? She calls you to your purpose, your path, and your soul passion. You are called to rise again and again. And I'm not joking about the again and again, because you think you get comfortable, and then suddenly Spirit's like, we're going to shake it all up for you again, sister. It's time to rise to a new rung on that ladder. And you're like, shit, I was just getting comfortable. So don't be upset if things keep shaking in your life to keep you growing. That's evolution. Go with that. You're called to rise again and again to live up into your full potential with all of its uniqueness and beauty. She will call you always with her sweet flute playing deep in your heart, blossoms of orchid and chrysanthemum falling from her feet, stirring your heart to quest for your truest soul passion. You may have felt different from those around you at different times in your life. Yeah. This is meant to be, beloved one. You cannot be a pioneer of different consciousness on this planet if you feel completely comfortable in the consciousness that already exists around you. So think about that for all of you that feel like, man, I feel like I'm a little different. I love hearing Tanya talk because she kind of makes sense to my soul. And it feels like someone doesn't think I'm crazy when I listen to her. But when I'm around all my friends and family, it's a different consciousness. That's because you came here to bring in a higher consciousness. That's why we have to get comfortable with that. We have to get comfortable with being pioneers. And that is not always an easy task. It needs to be a very disciplined, focused task if you wish to actually be successful and enjoy your journey. If you're not very focused and disciplined with your own self awareness, it's going to kick you around like being caught in the ocean and the surf just getting pounded into the reef. You want to be very mindful. You cannot be a parent. Okay, I already read that. Do you know that this was chosen on purpose so that you could be on purpose? Your soul chose to be of service by not fitting in, so that it would remember through things not feeling right that it was meant to help correct and heal the consciousness on our planet, starting with self. So if you're working at a job where they don't treat you with respect, you feel it. You go to that job and you're like, I feel like something's just not right here. That's because you're there to actually be aware of that and then to be a messenger of that. So, like in jobs I've worked, I will be that messenger. It's like, I observe so much victim consciousness here. I observe a lot of passive aggressive energy here, and it's creating a lot of separation. Sometimes those humans are very grateful, and sometimes they're like, you can go now because they don't really want to hear that. But it doesn't mean I wasn't called there to be a messenger of that. So, a lot of being an aligned leader of light is about non attachment. If we're worrying about that security of that job or the security of this relationship, this friendship, we will become silent. We'll put a noose around our neck, put ourselves in our self created prisons, and suffer. So if you don't want to suffer anymore, stop doing that and start speaking your truth. Start being a messenger of light and don't be attached to what will shift. Because if something's falling away, like a friendship, suddenly they don't like you because you actually are speaking truth, then give them a little bow of love and move on, because there is someone out there that will love you for that truth and some won't like you. So don't spend time with them. You're going to spend a lot of energy draining yourself trying to belong, trying to get them to like you in a way that will actually only enable their misaligned behavior. So really think about that. Da, 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 da. Once the self is able to correct and align the consciousness within so that it matched the love and peace that existed deep in the heart, it would be easier to help others do the same, even if just by inspiration. So aligned leadership is the best way to show them, is to show them through your aligned example. This is where the Orchid Priestess of Destiny, beloved Kuan Yin, in her devotion to your highest spiritual attainment, calls you forward now. Yes, beloved, your divine destiny is calling to you. That that means it is time to unplug from mass consciousness at a deeper level than ever before. So that's a beckoning for you to go into nature, into stillness, into meditation, because for us to access higher consciousness and to bring it in and to really anchor it in here, we have to be tuned into that more than this. And if we're caught up in all the party scene and clubbing and trying to fit in, and we're not listening and honoring our truth, we're not spending time in meditation and stillness, then we're going to be taken by the river and beat up on the rapids. But if we pull to the side, I'm going to tell you, I've pretty much read the essence of that card. Something I saw just in nature, and I love how nature is an amazing teacher, and then I'll kind of sum this up for the day's show, is I was just out on my nature hike with my dog, and we were running and then walking and then running. And so I just felt guided to go sit down on a rock in the river. And I was like, let's go, baby. So my dog, Honey Girl, and I, we went and sat on the rock in the river. And I'm just watching the water and just completely enjoying the presence and just being quiet, hearing the birds, the water. And I'm watching, and suddenly I see this big rock is in the center, and the water's rushing at it. And a lot of the water had to make contact with that rock, and then it had to make a choice. It had to make a decision. Do I go right? Do I go left? Do I beat myself against the rock? And so as I'm watching that, it was like a metaphor of humanity. And I saw the rapids represented, like, a lot of humans would come. And I feel like in my life, I often have been referred to as like, you're just like this solid, peaceful presence, like this rock, Tanya. And I sensed that I could feel in my movie at the moment that I'm looking at this rock, the symbol is that I was like that rock where humans will come towards me. So they may come for sessions, they watch the show, they come and they get awareness. That is why I'm in the river of consciousness, to help them. Now, many of them will choose just to ricochet over to the fast, speedy rapids, and they're like, thanks a lot for that wisdom, Tanya. Peace out. And they shoot over, and they're going to go party, and they're going to go get drugged and high and do what the hell they want to do, because you know what? No one tells me what to do. And so they go through that journey, and they can't really know self in the rapids. That water's churning, it's all turbulent and disruptive, and you're just trying to compete and keep yourself racing along the river with the rest of the collective consciousness that's pushing its way as well. But then I watched how on one side of the rock there was a still pond, and some of the water chose to move that direction. And these are the souls that listen to this awareness, and they choose to go into stillness. They choose to walk the peaceful life. They choose to move in a moving meditation throughout their life and enjoy their journey, and to show up for their moments with presence, no matter what those moments may be. They don't want the rapids. They don't want to go race and churn and compete. They're exhausted. And sometimes some of us have to go through the rapids for a while before we ever are so exhausted that we pull to the side. But when we pull to the side and we're in that still pond, the metaphor there is that the still pond, the pond surface becomes very still and reflective. And this is where we must go to deeply know self. We have to pull inward. We have to become still and silent to know that we are gods, to know that we are the creators of our existence. If we're angry and turbulent and rageful, we're in the rapids. We can't know self. We can't even see ourselves. And we're going to lash out and project and splash our water all over people around us because we don't even see the destructive things we're doing. And when Christ was being murdered on that cross that Christians want to wear around their necks, which I think is quite morbid personally, but everyone's got their thing. But when Christ was being murdered on that cross, and he was murdered, he had done nothing but teach them lessons, help them understand, show them love, teach them ways to live in alignment. And what he said, looking out, at least if the stories are true, is, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And that was such a true statement of consciousness, because when I, as a soul, am loving humans and they're hating me and lashing out and competing and comparing, and I'm just like, what's happening? I feel the effects of that. But I also, in my wisdom, know, don't take it personally. They don't even know what they do. They're not even aware. They're in the turbulent rapids, raging and lashing out. And I just happened to be that rock that was there to guide them, and they didn't want to listen. And so, this is something for any of you, if you can relate to that metaphor in your lives. Maybe see where you are. Are you choosing the rapids? Are you ignoring the awareness? Are you choosing the stillness? Are you a rock in your movie? Maybe in your life, you're that rock for your family, and you are there to speak truth to them. You're there to be a messenger. And do they listen? Do they lash out at you? If so, don't take it personally, but do love yourself and do honor your sacred space, because you deserve that and you're worthy of that. So, on that note, I'm going to sign off just saying, at the May special I'm offering, if any of you are wanting to work with me as a healer and get deeper into your own journey, with online clients, I'm offering soul coaching. If you buy a 5-pack of soul coaching, it's $555. You get 2 complimentary sessions. So you get 7 sessions for that price, and it goes until the end of May. You can use them throughout the year. But what we'll do is we'll connect via Skype or phone, and we can do past life regressions, past life readings, angel readings, or just get into deep soul conscious conversation pertaining to your specific issues and your specific life situation. So if any of you feel like it's time to start doing some of my work, thank your angels for bringing you the money. Stop saying there's not enough money. Stop saying that you don't have time. Those are all excuses. You're making a lackful consciousness choice by stating that. So start to affirm there's plenty, there's more where that came from. Thank you, angels. Thank you, universe, for supplying my needs. Thank you for helping me work with Tanya if you're feeling led, and focus there in the positive and see what shifts. So I thank all of you for tuning in, and I encourage you all week to very much be mindful of your need to judge, your need to judge yourself, your need to judge others, and just start to pay attention to it. And when you catch yourself, just be loving and gentle as you choose to shift away from that. You choose to shift to a space of love. You choose to start speaking your truth in a way that doesn't mean I judge, but I can speak my truth and make my choices rather than passive aggressively attacking humans because I don't want to speak truth. Start to be more in your power, and you're going to totally rock your life, and people will benefit and you will benefit from that choice. I promise you. So thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Amnon, for contributing today. And I love you guys. Mwah. Namaste.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCBVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.